Hello viewers and welcome to this video on the Cambridge Proficiency Listening Test. In this video I'll explain how the Cambridge Proficiency Test looks and what you can expect in each part. So the Cambridge Proficiency Listening Test consists of 4 parts. In each part you have a certain number of questions to answer. You can see that here in the second column, and there are a certain number of marks allocated, which you can see in the third column. As you can see, the number of questions and the number of marks for each part is equal, and that means that for every question you are asked, there is 1 mark available. In part 1, you are faced with a 3-option multiple choice task. So in that task, for every question, you have to read the question and then choose the answer which fits best from options A, B, and C. In part 2, you have a sentence completion task. What that involves is that you have to listen to the recording and read sentences at the same time. Sentences contain gaps, and for each of those gaps you have to pick out a word or a short phrase from the recording that fills the gap correctly. In part 3, you have 4-option multiple choice. This is quite similar to the 3-option multiple choice in part 1, except that here you have an extra answer option D, so you're picking from a series of 4 options rather than 3. Part 4 is a multiple matching exercise. So in this you have a series of speakers that you listen to, for example speaker 1, then speaker 2. And when you listen to each speaker, you have to choose the option which fits best according to a question you're given from a series of A, B, C, D, and so forth. The reason this is called multiple matching is that you have to do this kind of activity twice simultaneously. We'll explain that a little bit later in another video. A couple of things to notice about the setup here. Parts 1 and 3 are very similar in format. If you look at the number of marks allocated, they are worth 11 marks between them. By contrast, parts 2 and 4 between them are worth 19 marks, and that means that parts 2 and 4 are really the most valuable in terms of marks allocation. So those are the ones where you're really going to want to do very well. In fact, if you were to get all of the marks on part 2 and 4, you would already score about 63%, meaning that these are really the most substantial parts of the listening paper. What is the format for these different sections? Well, in part 1, you're going to be listening to 3 separate extracts, so that's 2 questions per extract, and each of those extracts could either be a monologue or a dialogue. In part 2, you listen to 1 longer monologue. In part 3, you listen to 1 longer dialogue. This often takes the form of an interview. And in part 4, you listen to 5 separate monologues. So that's 2 marks per monologue. A couple of extra things to know about this listening paper. First of all, the test time is approximately 40 minutes. You have to keep pace with the recording. You don't have to watch out for your own timekeeping particularly. Another important thing to know is that you always get time to read the questions before you listen to the extract, so it's important to make use of that time effectively. We'll talk about that later in the other videos as well. Something else that's important, the extracts are always played twice. And finally, at the end of the exam, you will also have 5 minutes to transfer your answers to your answer sheet. So if you don't have time to fill in your answer sheet during the listening part itself, you'll still have time to do that once the test is finished. In the following videos, we're going to talk more about how the individual parts can be approached, the strategies that you can use there. Thank you for listening.